Hello and welcome to Living Spark, a project of the Spark of Humanity Network. You can find out a lot about us on sparkofhumanity.net if you're interested. And you can also look into the videos done by Martha Holden last year called Living Mosaic. That was also presented by Orca Media. We have a philosophy that there is in each human being a light, a spark that we call our spark of humanity. I find that hard to articulate, so I'm just going to call it the light inside of us. And that light it exists below the level of the ego. Kind of, it's like if I allow myself to go there when I'm in relationship with someone else and allow myself to see that they also exist at that level, that there is a possibility of real change happening in the world. This philosophy is something that is, it sounds fanciful, and the majority of people that are, that deal with this, that look at this, will interact with it, will say, well, yeah, you mean if I go there, I'll win an argument, or I'll make an instant bit of change. I'll instantly convince someone else of my point of view. And the answer to all of that is absolutely not. In that place below the ego, we are connected in a way that is kind of indescribable. Some people call it compassion. Empathy, I think, is the beginning of compassion. We have the capacity to sense each other at a deep, deep level. And from there, change can happen. And by the way, if you're willing to explore this, I'm going to recommend that you prepare yourself, because you yourself might experience change from being at that place. I always give myself a little homework when I do one of these. I start out by reviewing the homework from the last time. I talk a little bit about my own reaction, my own experience with that, and then I will go into the next section, which will lead to the next talk. And last time I was talking about change. Like if we get below our ego and into a level of just pure human experience, and we experience someone else's light at that level, what is an example of the change that comes from that, or what are some of the kinds of change? And in a moment that I don't claim to be psychic or anything like that, but in a moment that turned out to be a bit prescient, I talked a bit about my sorry about my cat in the background, by the way. That's Momo, and she will absolutely not tolerate my being in here without her joining me. And so therefore, anyway, I talk a little bit about my sister, my relationship with my sister. I remember mentioning that she and I have had a difficult relationship. She is a member of a type of Christianity where she very much sees evil in anyone around her that doesn't subscribe to her perspective. And in my case, being trans, when I came out, she was convinced that she could, cure me of this, or that she was going to pray it away, or she was going to, when I got married after having transitioned, she started to kind of lay into the kids that are my stepchildren, trying to save them from me, apparently. It was rough. It's been very rough. And I also mentioned that my sister has done things in the world that display a genuine generosity and genuine kindness. We don't come from money. We don't come from a lot of wealth or anything like that. And my sister has managed to be very generous with her resources, with her time, and with her care and love for others. And the example is that she has, over the years, she's fostered several children, and she's also adopted several kids with special needs. She has 3 kids who have profound autism. And that is an example of something that I can't say I've done anything anywhere like that. The amount that she has given of her time and her love to those children has really made a huge difference in their lives. They're all young adults now, except for her son Terrence, who, again, profound autism, always nonverbal. I've met him a few times over the years, and because we don't live in the same place anymore, my sister and I. But when I've been back visiting family, I have met him a few times. I could never comprehend his speech. It was a sort of a high-pitched whining to me, and yet she was able to glean enough from that and to talk to him in a way that would soothe him and also allow a bit of conversation between the two of them. Last week, I got a call from my brother telling me that Terrence had in fact died at the age of 30. He's been living in a group home for many years. My sister, despite her having dementia and being very limited in her ability to drive and to look after herself, I mean, she has a lot of help looking after herself. Despite that, she was able to spend time with him at least once a week. He would come to her home, and she would look after him for a day every week. And she loved him tremendously, powerfully, like really impressively. It's very difficult from my own experience. I can say that I found it very, very difficult to try to form any kind of bond with him because of his nonverbal state. And I was, again, very impressed with we think of adoption. Some people feel like it isn't real, which offends me. Yeah, he was truly her son, and she experienced the loss of her son. And I am deeply moved by the reality of that, and by the agony of that, the agony of dealing with the loss of a child. I can't even imagine it. I got over myself. I said last time that I have a good relationship with her now, and I feel that I do, but here's the reality. We hardly ever talk. I'm always on guard. Last year during the election, we were definitely on opposite sides of things, but again, she has dementia, so she didn't bring that up when I talked to her, but I was still avoiding her. And I gave her a call, and if I were in her shoes, I would have expected that call from my siblings. It did not make me feel proud that she was utterly surprised to hear my voice and to know that I had taken the time to reach out to her at that time, at that moment. I'm very on guard against something that I call performative compassion or performative humility, which is a contradiction in terms of oxymoron, but I see it in the spiritual world, people who look at me being humble. I actually, I went to a teaching at a Buddhist temple, a very advanced teacher who was there giving a very basic initiation. So a lot of us had come out for that. And there was a young woman who handed her phone to a friend of hers so the friend could video record her walking on her knees to go up and receive a blessing. None of us were doing that. It was just people were walking up and bowing our heads, and he was putting his hand on her head and giving us a blessing. But she had a video, she had a TikTok video, I assume, that showed her being humble, performative humility. I guess I've talked about judgment here. Maybe I'm sure I'm judging her, and I don't mean to, but I'm doing it. But yeah, I chuckled, and I've used that as an example for myself when I find myself being like so pious about something and doing it in a way that others will see it. I try to be very careful about that. But I'll tell you this, I talked last time about having forgiven my sister and about having forged over really literally decades, having forged a relationship with her despite the initial shock of her dealing with me back in the 90s when they transitioned. And since then, like for the up until the 2010s, there was that kind of divide between us. And I spoke about it, and suddenly it got real. Suddenly I had to ask myself, if I've forgiven her, why am I hesitating to call her? I did hesitate. It took me a little while to pick up the phone. I knew she wasn't going to give me a hard time. I knew she wasn't going to preach at me, but I still was on guard and still found it difficult. And let me tell you, when you hear she's my big sister. She's 70 years old and I'm 66. And when I heard her sobbing on the other end of the phone, I was brought back to childhood. I was brought back to our being little kids together, and the depth of her vulnerability, very genuine vulnerability, and the depth of her confusion, her dementia. If you don't talk to somebody who has dementia, you don't really keep up with it, the progress of it. But the depth of that, the reality of it was jarring. And like I was asking myself prior to having this whole conversation with her, I was feeding off of the topic of change, transformation that I had talked about last time. I found myself saying, well, what can I do to foster change or to foster my belief that change can happen? What can I do? All of that was very outside of myself, outside of my own personal self, outside of my own periphery, if you will. That, am I going to go wave a sign? I have done that, and I find it very helpful to me, at least, to go stand on a line and protest some of the things going on in this country and in the world. But while I was thinking about going and doing things, this reality of someone that I love and grew up with as my big sister and her loss of her son, that came in and was a very real, not just a very real opportunity, but a very real necessity for me to ask myself, am I being generous? Have I really forgiven her? Have I really begun to see her the way she is in the world, for all the strength and all the flaws, and the beautiful generosity and the rather challenging narrowness of her spiritual perspective? And I have to say that I still wasn't there. I thought I was, because I didn't get angry with her anymore. I didn't fight with her. For years, I haven't chosen to fight with her. So yeah, I spent some time thinking about that this week. I spent some time thinking about the many things that I've had to curtail with my sister. I don't tell her that I go to a Buddhist temple. I don't tell her that I'm doing this series, The Living Spark, because we don't specifically use the name Jesus, which is what I'm sorry, I'm going to adjust a little bit here. There we go, that's a little better. But because I'm not talking about Jesus, because my experience is that I have tremendous respect and reverence. I don't want to go deeply into that, but that I am currently a practicing Buddhist, a beginner, but practicing Buddhist. I can't talk to my sister about that. I can't even acknowledge that it's part of my life without upsetting her. And giving up that part of myself in that narrow world of hers, of my relationship with her, is kind of painful sometimes. And I don't have to not talk about being trans because she has actually fully accepted that and has come to telling me that she loves having a sister that loves her, however she expresses it. So there isn't that. She doesn't use the wrong name when she talks to me or about me. She doesn't use the wrong pronouns. I'm still on guard with her, and I'm still concerned, and because she was my big sister, and she was always kind in a way that others saw and appreciated. When she was unkind to me, it was particularly deep. It cut very deeply. So yeah, like, what am I going to do for real? What am I going to do? I sent flowers, this card. I sent my love. I called her. I contacted a few people that know her that wouldn't have necessarily known about this and asked them to be in touch, and they were. But it occurred to me that when someone I've loved has passed away, the tendency has been that, and it's understandable, I've done the same thing when friends of mine or family of mine have lost someone. I tend to be there for them. Others tend to be there for me, immediately after a loss. And then, people don't dwell in that space with you. And you're left with your grief. And it occurred to me that I don't want to leave my sister alone with her grief. She isn't all alone in the world. I mean, she has people. She has her many other kids, including the ones she gave birth to, but she has many children, and they are there for her, and they are spending time with her. But it occurred to me that she doesn't have a sister that's calling her on a regular basis and checking in and saying hi. And I decided to change that and beginning to do that. And I'm making a commitment to myself to call once a week or so. I will say that one of the flaws in our family that people would often call each other and then just sit there on the phone silently. I've never seen that behavior anywhere else, but my dad used to do it, and my sister eventually started doing it. She has dementia now, as I've mentioned, and so we talk like 5-10 minutes, and that's good. So that is the current commitment I'm making to her. And then I've started thinking about, like, I complain a lot that I'm alone in the world and that I don't have a real social life. And then I stop and think, and I'm divorced, and other people I know my age I know several widows in my circle, widowers, and divorced people, and people who never had kids or never married. A lot of people who are alone in the world. And I will sit all afternoon and think, boy, I wish somebody would call me, but I never pick up the phone and call. The people that I know are probably lonely. And so that's another commitment that I'm starting to, at least mildly entertain. But as I've said before, this is a process of you watching me stumble through these questions. And my topic this time, I've touched on it a few times building up to now, but my topic for my homework is about getting real. Far too easy for me to say out loud to others that I have forgiven my sister because, hey, that means I can polish my own halo, right? That's a little virtue signaling. But to actively engage with someone in need who has made me uncomfortable in the past or made me unhappy, that's called getting real. That's called making, if I really have forgiven her, I'm going to stop talking about it and start doing something. Now, that's only one example. There are many, many other ways to talk about getting real. And I'm searching my mind for one of those. Didn't make notes before today's session, so I'm having to fish a little bit, but there are many. One of them for me is that I am a musician. I've mentioned this before. I used to perform a lot. I loved it. That was the height of my happiness, was when I was playing guitar in front of people. That was just as good as it gets from my perspective. And I had to stop because of severe health problems and severe heart condition. I had to stop performing, and it's been really rough. I would have a gig and I'd be looking forward to it all week. And afterwards, I would kind of bask in the glow for a few days and get ready for the next one. And I sort of directed myself toward, I've always done a little composition, like modern classical kind of music. And I've slowly steered myself in that direction more and more, taking courses now, and beautiful thing that you can do that online. And I am writing a little bit every day, and I'm really working. But something happened recently where I had an opportunity there's this thing called Open Call for Scores. It's a competition, basically. And some ensemble will say, send us your music that's 3 to 5 minutes long or whatever. And for this ensemble, send us this piece of music and we'll review it and decide if we're going to pick one winner from all the applications. And I have applied to a couple of them. No surprise, the first one I did not win. But I've started looking through my back catalog of music. I have a lot of compositions that are almost finished or that I finished and now I want to rework to make them a little bit different. And as I've been doing that, a certain arrogance has crept into my thinking. I started thinking, I'm really pretty good. Like, oh, this is good stuff. And I started getting bogged down in that, and wasn't doing my classwork for the class that I'm in right now. And I suddenly just pushed aside all that old music of mine, and I said, this is it. I'm going to focus on my classes for a few weeks. And during that time, when I came back to my older music, I realized it feels a little stale to me. That it feels like it's sort of before I really started studying. It's pretty good, but it isn't great. And I want to make, if not great music, I want to make the best music that I'm capable of making. So talk about getting real. That's one in a purely, has nothing to do with Spark of Humanity, in a pure way in terms of my ego and my relationship to my community as a musician, and things that I'm doing with my time every day. This is a very real thing, to take the time to review my experience and my skill level, to be able to look at something I wrote before and not look at it superficially and go, oh, that's got some great moments. I think that's a great piece of music. And to really dive in and make myself review this. It's very, my ego and my sense of my spiritual self are very tied up in my musical being. And my sense of my own light, my own spark, my own humanity are all tied up very much in this thing that I love so much and that I identify with so much. So now I have to ask myself, I'm putting in the time and I'm really working at it. And I have to ask myself, am I being real? Am I being real with myself about my abilities, about my strengths and my weaknesses? And am I really working to resolve the weaknesses and build on the strengths? And that's not about my spiritual connection to others, but it is about making change within myself. And it's beginning because I'm finally able to be real about things. I don't make a piece of music and think it's the best thing I ever did, which was usually my attitude, or, oh, this is awful, it's crap. I'm walking away from both of those perspectives and trying to look at that aspect of myself more realistically. So with 30 seconds left in this episode, this session, I want to thank Orca Media, and I want to thank the Spark of Humanity Network. Please visit us on sparkofhumanity.net if you're interested in knowing more about us. And I also want to say that my work for the next couple of weeks is going to I'm going to get real. I'm going to look for opportunities, and I'll tell you about those in a couple of weeks. Thank you.